we can also add an owner, like who owns this group, right? Owners most definitely will have more rights to the group than the members. So we can just make I can make myself like the owner of this group. I can just make myself the owner of this group. So it's as easy as that. So what else do we have under the group functionality? We have roles and administrators. Apologies, my internet is a little bit slow. So you have roles and administrators. You can actually go ahead to assign administrative roles in Entra. So let me check for okay, we'll come back to this so we can be fast. Okay, so we have group membership, applications, licenses, Azure role assignments, and all of this within the group. This is just a normal group folder, right? So you can see that there is a lot that you can do within a group. There's so much. You actually have audit logs. Audit logs are the engagement or what has been happening within, this M365 tenant. So you can see that the audit log says at so and so time, a call directory service, group management, add a member to the group, and it was a success. Just in case you have issues, there was a time we had a failure, or what caused the failure, you can actually go to the audit logs and you can find the failure, and you can even click on the failure. It's going to put a somewhat detailed explanation, and you can even research more on it. So that's where the audit log thing comes in very, very handy. So I'm just trying to fish out the most useful features so that we can meet to time. So all these are, all these and more are what you can do within a Microsoft 365 group. So quickly, let's look at the dynamic group. So we can click on new group, and it's a dynamic group, so I would want it to be a Microsoft 365 group. Now, the difference between the Microsoft 365 group and a security group, like I said, the security group is usually for, putting in people with similar security attributes into one container or into one folder. However, Microsoft 365 groups extends beyond that because it's Microsoft 365, yeah? And it means there's a lot of collaboration that will be happening within this group. So when you create a Microsoft 365 group, members of these groups will be entitled to Microsoft 365 collaborative tools like Teams, Planner, Outlook, and all of that. Right? So that is why it's always good, if you have collaboration at the back of your mind, it's always good to create an M365 or a Microsoft 365 group so that your team members can be in one Microsoft Teams group, right? They can have access to a mailbox. They can have access, that's one mailbox. They can have access to the same planner, just collaborating with each other. And that's where this Microsoft 365 groups comes in handy. So let's go ahead and name this sales. I actually created 2 users with sales. That's why I'm using sales, so that it can be easy for us to detect. All right. So group description. So we can go ahead and say members of sales department. You can call it whatever you want to. Department. Right? So you can actually go ahead to add owners or members. But now, this is the part that distinguishes a dynamic group from a normal group, right? Because a normal group, we usually assign users, and that is why by default, you can see it's called assigned, because we can go into the group and we'll add users by ourselves. But that's not the case here. We want it to be a dynamic user group in the sense that it will fetch the users itself without any form of administrative effort. Okay, so we can make this a dynamic group, and now we add the dynamic query. You can go ahead and add an owner if you want, but just to speed up with time. Okay, let me just make this guy an owner. I don't know who that guy is. Let me make Pradeep an owner. right? And then let's go ahead and put in a query. So this is a sales dynamic membership, dynamic user group, right? So we need to add properties that have to do with sales. So we come here to property, and we can say what are the distinct properties that have to do with sales. Their job title, example. Yeah, so we can come and say, yeah, that's the fastest way of getting this sales thing. Let's go ahead and look for job title. Yeah, so we can now use an operator. An operator is what, brings in our property and values together. Like it's like the link that connects these two things to make it important and useful. So we have different kind of operators: add, all, blah blah blah. So we can just go ahead to be more specific, and because of time, to use the equals to, then their exact job title. So you look inwardly as an M365 administrator or as an IT support person. You look inwardly and say, what's exactly their title? When I'm creating a user in sales, what do I name them on that job title? And I say, okay, I call them sales executives. Yeah. So I call them sales executives, and I can now decide and say, okay, I don't just want for only all sales executive. I can decide to add more query. I want you to go ahead to query my users and find those living in so and so, and say, okay, sales executive living at I used San Diego, and it's actually a city in America. So I actually used San Diego, right? When I was creating the users. So you can go ahead and click on add expression, and you use the and, so that these two, you can actually use or, right? Or is just, okay, if it's either this or this. But now I want to be specific. I want to narrow it and say only users that are within, that are sales executives and are living in San Diego should belong to this group. So anytime I create a user that is living in San Diego and is a sales executive, automatically that person will be assigned by the system into this group. So let's go ahead and use the and say city. Of course, you can use the equals to again, and San Diego. These are the only two users I was able to create. So let's go ahead and click on save. Then we can go ahead and click on create. Okay, so successfully it has been created, right? So we can go back and check for sales. Okay, sales. Let's see if it populates our users. Okay, let's refresh. Let me go ahead and refresh this. Sometimes it takes time to populate, right? So you have to refresh it. So you can go back, groups. Okay, let's see. Now, when it's like this, what do you need to do? You need to check your rules, right? To ensure those rules fit into what you want. So let's see the rules I created. I said job title equals sales executive, city equals San Diego. Let me check my users if they actually have that attributes. So this is one of the users. I changed her property. Okay, so she's a sales executive, and yes, city is San Diego. Let me copy this. So sometimes you have to check properly to see if it's your error or maybe the system is still propagating. Okay, so let's scroll down. I just tweaked these two users to have that. Okay, he's a sales executive as well, and San Diego. Okay, let's go ahead and check now. Is our San Diego correct? Yes, it is. Okay, yes, the spelling is correct. So actually what's happening right now is propagation. Okay, so it's taking time to propagate. Let's just give it some time. It will definitely propagate and you'd see, would definitely have our members in here. So once again, let's go ahead and check. Okay, so we have M365 group and it's a dynamic group. This is the email. Okay, and it succeeded. Okay, so we'll definitely come back to this to see if it must have populated or not. I just want to quickly check one more thing. Okay, let me quickly do something. Oh, sorry. That should be under our groups. So let's go back to sales. Okay, let's go ahead and delete this group just in case I fat fingered while trying to create this group. Let me go ahead and recreate it again. So new group, collaboration, sales, sales department. Okay, because I just noticed something now. It has gone to this. This is where our users are. Okay, so let's go to group description, member of sales department. Okay, so assign. So let's just quickly go to dynamic user, add our query. So for those that did not get that before, that was exactly what we did. So we use job title. We can use anything, but for this class, we're using job title and we just want to be very specific. And we said sales executive. Let me see if there is an S or it's just sales executives. Okay, scroll down. Okay, executive. There is no S. Awesome. Okay, so sales executive. That could have been a problem. So let's go ahead and add one more expression that says they live in San Diego. So we can have other sales executives that live in Nigeria and they won't be added to this group because they don't live here in San Diego. Okay, so let's go ahead and create. All right, so we search again. Okay, let's just wait. We'll definitely come back to it. So it's actually obvious that it's a propagation issue. All right, so that's fine. So anyways, naturally how it works is that when the group has been created to be a dynamic group without me doing anything, it just keeps populating the users as long as they live in San Diego and they belong to the sales team. It keeps populating them in here. Okay, so we'll check back again because this is definitely propagation issue. So let's now move down to, without wasting much time, to what we have here as deleted groups. Just as we have deleted users, we have deleted groups here. So Microsoft has a policy of 30 days. If you do not restore them, they will be permanently deleted after 30 days. And of course, you can restore them by just highlighting on them or ticking on them, anyone you want to restore, and clicking on restore group, and they will be restored. Or you want to permanently delete them yourself, you can go ahead to delete them. You can never overemphasize the use of users and groups within our organization. It's actually very, very needed. Okay, so let's move on to the next part. We have devices, overview, all devices. Okay, so the overview for devices is, organization. We live in, okay, let me paint this scenario for you. Prior to now, okay, let's go back to the classic approach, right? Devices were given by our organizations to us within a perimetered environment, like within our offices, within our organization. We were plugged into our organization's network. So our organization had less risk issues. Isn't that so? Because we were forced to go to work. There was nothing like work from home. You were forced to use your organization's PC, and you were forced to use your organization's internet, your organization's local network. You were forced to use all those things. So it was like a garden, or more like just one kind of, perimeter environment kind of thing. So it poses less risk. But after COVID, of course, although some organizations were working from home before COVID, I wonder how they did that. They were really brave, But after COVID, organizations started, decentralizing. People from different parts of the world work for people at the other part of the world. In that sense, or in that light, organizations were no longer giving out devices, right? It was now like, bring your own device. So when you bring your own device, it doesn't mean you should bring a non-compliant device or a wrong device, because since our organizations, due to COVID-19 and as the world is evolving, chose to decentralize, it poses more risk. Okay, because now you have people from Africa working for people in America. You have people from America working for people in Russia. So organization data, it was no longer secure. Anything can happen at any time. So this is where this feature comes in very handy, in the sense that we are now forced to bring in our own devices, however, at our company's or organization's terms. So I'm telling you to bring your own device does not mean I want you to bring a rubbish device, or I want you to bring a non-compliant device. I want you to bring a device that's compliant. And how do I know if your device is compliant? I would have to integrate it into our company system, yeah? And that's where we now have devices under Microsoft Entra Admin Center. So this part of the Entra Admin Center enables our organization to add in, different device, or integrate different devices. This is not a real life environment, so I couldn't just integrate any, device into this. But naturally, what you'd see here, you'd see a list of devices like computer systems, and you'd see this green check mark as a sign that, okay, it is compliant. If it is not if it's a non-compliant and it's manageable, you'd see something like this exclamation, and if it is not, it's going to just red or exit out. So now, because of the so much risk that we are burdened, or organizations are saddled with, they have to, use this functionality in Microsoft Entra to integrate people's devices. However, these devices have to follow the rules. For instance, if part of our compliance rules says it has to have an antivirus, or is supposed to not have any other antivirus aside the Microsoft Defender, Windows Defender antivirus, that is only when it's compliant. That's where you see every information, within that device here. Okay. So when you click on all devices, all the list of devices will be dropped in here. This is mine. That's the one I'm connected to, and that's why you see it here. There's actually no rule. There's actually no rule here, so it just accepts it. There's nothing here. All right. So we have BitLocker keys. Organization goes ahead to lock the hard drive. Now, for instance, if it is an organization that says, all right, we're going to send you a device from America to Africa. However, we are going to lock the hard drive, okay? But you are entitled to the BitLocker key, and you can go ahead and save it here. That's our admin crew can go ahead and save the BitLocker key. If this BitLocker key is missing, or by any means deleted, or is no longer found here, I've actually seen real life situation whereby they couldn't find their BitLocker key. I don't know how it got missing from this portal. Then it was Azure Active Directory. They couldn't find their BitLocker key. So everything inside that hard drive that was very important to the organization just went like that, because you have to format the system. So it's really risky or very dangerous if you're not a careful person, or if you can't find your BitLocker key here and all of that. So this BitLocker key is more like an encryption that locks every hard drive of the devices that are within our organization's reach or environment. Okay, so I'm just trying to rush down. So we have enterprise applications. These enterprise applications is where we go ahead to add in or integrate some, third-party applications that we want to work with. We want to assign them single SSO, that's the single sign-on, and all of that. So we get to integrate those applications here. Okay, so I actually want to round off with this identity and protection, and I want us to really take note here, because it's very, very key to our learning. So due to time, we won't be able to do single sign-on, because that actually takes time, to integrate in here. So we won't be able to do that. So I just want to let us know what it is. You're including or integrating your organization's third-party application that you want your staff to work with, and you want them to use just one user ID and password, of course, to access all those applications. So you have your enterprise applications there. So this is very, very important. If you do not have the P2 subscription like we saw earlier, unfortunately, you won't be able to access this identity protection. So what is identity protection? Remember, this Entra or Microsoft Entra Admin Center is actually built to manage our organization's identity, right? However, it is not just for authentication and authorization, right? It is also to protect this authentication and authorization processes. And that's why we have identity protection. So the identity protection gives us some useful features that we can see. We have our conditional access. We'll come back to it. We have user risk policy, and we have sign-in risk policy. You can see we have risky users, risky workload identities, risky sign-in, and risky detections. So let's go ahead and start from conditional access. Conditional access, just like the name implies, is when our organization puts in a condition before we can access their platform, or before we can access M365, that's their cloud apps, right? Before you can access M365 or your Microsoft 365 Office suite, you have to meet some certain conditions. It's either it's going to block you or it's going to allow you. If all these conditions are met, they're actually called signals. We'll definitely come back there to give or to create a demo for that. Okay, so now under the conditional access, that's under the identity protection, we have user risk policy. So what are user risk policies? User risk policies are the policies that we use to govern the risk patterns of our users, in the sense that how does Microsoft detect a risky user? Now, there are some people within our organization that actually pose a threat to our organization. Example of those key people, we're talking about our board members, our IT administrators, your account executive, because they do control the finance of that company. Yeah? So all these people, they are sensitive people, and because they are sensitive people, they have high risk measures. Okay, so the way these people log in matters a lot. The way their authentication is done, authorization is actually done, it actually matters to our organization a lot. Because remember, I mentioned that an organization's security posture is as weak as, sorry, is as strong as its weakest link. So if your weakest link is weak, it means your organization security posture is weak. If your weakest link is strong, it means that your organization security posture is strong. So most organizations, they don't just fish out the sensitive people, like I have mentioned, board members, account executive, IT administrators, or any form of maybe it could be global administrators. You know, they don't just pick those like I have selected here. They go ahead to add all users because they feel every user is a potential threat, right? So you can go ahead and create a policy. You create all users, then you put them, do they have high risk? Yes. You tell the system that I'm saying all users should have high risk. Always go ahead to exclude one person, either from the admin center. So you can use the excluding feature like I have clicked, and you can go ahead and exclude myself, right?